All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And in this lesson, I was reading through, a couple of different articles on current events, and I was thinking, mainly on Matthew the 24th chapter, right? Which within that chapter, our Lord Yahweh Shai prophesied, right? Gave us signs and clues by what he told his disciples concerning what would happen at the end of the world and before his return. Okay, and we are at the end of the world. We're at the end of this age. But, Yahweh Shai knowing aforetime what would actually, how things would play out and how they would take place, he chose his words very specifically, right? Very, very wisely too. So let me start off here, Matthew 24:1, and I'll jump right down to the point. It reads here, and Yahushua went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him for to shew him the buildings of the temple. And Yahushua said unto them, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? So they asked, right? and in part of their request, in the third verse, they wanted to know what was going to be the sign, right? Something that they could use to tell, to give them some indication of when the Lord would be returning and when the end of the world would be, because that would lead to the beginning of the rule of Israel, okay, or otherwise known as the kingdom of heaven. So Yahweh Shai, gives them a couple of different signs, right? In verse 4, 5, and in verse 6, in particular, he says, And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. Now, the end of the world didn't come at during the time of the apostles, right? The end of the world didn't come 100 years after that, or 200 years after that, or 500 years after that. Okay, we are now at the point of the end of the world. So those wars and rumors of wars are pertaining to our time now. Okay. Now, notice he said here, see that ye be not troubled, right? Don't let the wars and rumors of wars trouble your mind, because from a secular perspective, right, from a perspective of people that are in the world without the guidance, the mental guidance of prophecy, right, and the spirit of the Lord, it looks as though when wars like these break out and they continue to escalate, that it is mad, it is mutually assured destruction, right? It is a nuclear winter that is about to take place, because you have nuclear superpowers that are going to be involved or already involved in this war. And right now, I'm speaking about what's going on between Iran and the U.S. and Israel. So then he says, don't be troubled, right? For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. You see that? So what that means is, and the reason he said that is because these things, they do have to happen, right? The wars, the rumors of wars, they do need to happen. But the reason the end is not yet is because there's still other prophecies that need to take place. But the wars and rumors of wars would be a prerequisite for that. Okay, in fact, it would be necessary, as we are seeing, for the current wars and rumors of wars to lead to, or to set up and put in place the setting, the tone, and the current plot of the world, so that the remaining prophecies can come about. Okay, so that the necessary state of the world can be appropriate for the introduction of the MOTB and the other remaining prophecies. You see? So there's a reason why Yahushua said, but the end is not yet. All these things do have to come to pass, but the end is not yet. And then he goes on to mention that this is the beginning of sorrows. So it is through those sorrows, right, and the turmoil and the changing of a sense of normalcy that people had, that the remaining prophecies take place. You see, and so when we see the things that are going on, which, a couple of the headlines on here, it's really just a playing a mental game, right? That they're playing with the markets, with the masses of the people's minds, right? Like it's like playing badminton with them from the west to the east, right? The side of Iran, the side of the U.S. and Israel, and then so on. And so you'll see things like one of the headlines here says, highly unlikely the U.S. will extend Iran ceasefire. Quote, lots of bombs will go off if no deal, right? Says Trump. And then I believe it was yesterday that you had the U.S. They basically hit an Iranian tanker, and I think they boarded it, right, and took it over. And then Iran says, you know what? We've closed up the strait because of the U.S.'s blockade, and we're gonna retaliate because of what the U.S. did. Well, when in taking that tanker, right, and basically taking it out. And then you turn around, and then you see now once again there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation, regular information, all going out from many different sources. So you have information that's coming out saying that Pakistan is from Pakistan saying that the Iran delegates will be landing in there on Tuesday, which I believe is supposed to be around the same time that the U.S. delegates are going to get there for another round of peace talks, right? But then again, you see news that'll say from the Iranians that they didn't agree to a second round of peace talks because of what the U.S. is doing. So it's a lot of talk. Okay, it's a lot of talk, and each news article, right, or press briefing or YouTube video or event that takes place either causes the markets to jump or to the markets start going down, right? Things start going bad. So it's a manipulation. All right, that's what it is, because investor sentiment is tied to money, and the way they move their money is what you see being reflected in the numbers, right? So with that being said, you have to once again watch what they're doing. If a thief is going to rob a bank and they have plans to rob a bank, they can say whatever they want to say, right? They can literally come and tell you that the bank they're trying to rob. We all know it's in the U.S., but then they've booked a flight. They said they've booked a flight to Jamaica. Wait, aren't you supposed to be trying to rob a bank in the U.S.? Why have you booked a flight to Jamaica, right? And so they can say all of these things, right? They're not even interested in robbing banks. They have too much money. They don't all these things they can say, but guess what? When it's all said and done, they're still going to take the necessary actions to enact their plan. So guess what? Sooner or later, where are you going to see them? At the bank. And they're probably going to have that damn black ski mask on. And they're going to have some gun or something like that trying to, rob a bank. Okay. So that's the action. Sooner or later, they're going to take the necessary action that shows what their true plans and intentions are. Because there's no way you fulfill your agenda without actually taking action on the things you have planned. And that's the number one, well, that's one of the main truth tellers, is what you actually do. You can say that you're not going to do something, but if deep down in your heart you want to do something and you are, eventually you're going to do it. And when you do it, it'll be known that, oh, so indeed you did want to do it. All right. So that's why seeing all these things, this information that's going back and forth, it's some of it is like a contradictory, and one is this, one is that. At the end of the day, you look at what they're doing, right? And you look at how that's playing out, and you'll understand, okay, this is a lot of this is all just rhetoric, right? It's all just rhetoric playing on the minds of people. But what is not rhetoric is the effects that it's having. You now have the closure of the strait and the blockade from the US, right? And this is still gas prices are not coming down. They're still high. FYI, right? The average is now over $4. You have places like where is it? Europe, right? There was a headline here that said Europe faces summer jet fuel crisis as Iran war slashes supply. So guess what? Whether they're having peace talks or whether they extend the ceasefire or whether they say they're not going to, all each day that goes by, the energy crisis is getting worse and worse and worse. The global economy is taking a bigger and bigger hit. Now, I think Saudi Arabia also came out and said that if they run out of dollars to use because of this prolonged Iran war, they're gonna have to settle for selling their oil in yuan, right? Which will be a very big hit to the petrodollar. So there's a once again a lot of these things are happening, but they're happening now because of these wars and rumors of wars, right? That is opening the door for a lot of these other events to take place. These things that we read of in Second Ezra 15 and 16 and many other precepts, there's a trigger for these things, right? These prophecies are all interconnected, but there's a domino that has to come before the domino that hits the one you're looking at, right? And so that's exactly what we are witnessing right now. The Lord is working, but there's a particular order and way that He has set it up. But we are very close, okay? We are very close. This is Romans chapter 13, verse 11. And that knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep. For now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. See that? So the Most High is controlling, or He's orchestrating the things that are happening in the earth. But we know, we believe it's close, but it's closer than even what we think, right? Because we sometimes you see things in a linear path. Oh, if domino A hits B, then B is going to hit C, and if C gets hit, then D is going to get hit, right? But the Lord controls these events. He could have it to where domino E and F fall at the same time. Maybe a strong wind blows by, or whatever the case is. They're external outliers, right? Things that you don't see coming, things that you can't foretell, things that you can't guess based on what you're currently seeing, that the Lord controls. So when He says that something is going to happen, right? We read in the scriptures, and something is prophesied to happen. That's exactly what's going to happen. It doesn't matter if it doesn't look like it, and it doesn't matter if, in fact, it looks like the opposite. The Lord controls time, people, events, all of these things. And a lot of events are driven by human action anyway. And if the Lord controls the minds of men, then whatever actions they take to trigger said events are all going to be according to His will. So we're at that point where we're seeing the wars and rumors of wars, and we're seeing why the Lord said the end is not yet. Because if these wars or rumors of wars were to go nuclear right away, they were to go hit the peak, there wouldn't be room for the other things that need to happen, like the MOTB being made mandatory, right? And it's gonna be fast, but it's still necessary. It still has to happen. Okay, the hour of martial law. The second measures, I believe, is 16 or the sixth chapter. One of those, it mentions that those that dwell on the earth shall many that dwell on the earth shall perish of famine, and those that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. Right. So all these things, they need to happen, but we're seeing the conditions for them being set up now, right? As we're watching how this global turmoil is starting to shape different economies worldwide. right? They're starting to hit people's pockets. People are starting to get desperate. The economy that was already on its last legs now it ain't even on no legs anymore. They put it on a stretcher. Okay, so not really much left for me to say, but that's what I was thinking about, and I wanted to share that it's interesting that Yahushua mentioned, but the end is not yet. He made sure to put that message, that caveat in there, that yes, well, we know that the final prophecy with the destruction comes through war, right? Isaiah 9:5, it comes through war, right? Nuclear war. So he had to mention that yes, you will see wars and rumors of wars, but when you see this, it's not the nuclear war just yet. Okay. It still has some work to do. So we are monitoring the times or measuring the times diligently in itself, as it is written in Second Ezra, the ninth chapter. And we're doing it by looking at current events, right? Reading the scriptures. We know what the prophetic timeline is. And we look at these current events and we see, okay, where does this fit? What slice of time does this fit in? And that way we know, okay, this is what's coming down the pipe, or this is what this means, right? Or how it's going to play out, because we know the outcome of these different events. It's written in these books, written in the scriptures. So at this point, we just gotta do what the Lord said, right? Watch as well as pray, right? Watch that you're not taken into temptation while you're pray that you're not taken into temptation while you're watching, and watch so that that day doesn't come upon you unawares. And just make sure you're as prepared as you can be. You have other people that, they also go into current events, but their solution is building some like a bunker, or, trying to prep as much as you can. But at the end of the day, it's the Heavenly Father who controls who eats and who doesn't. There are a million plus infinity different ways that the Lord can prevent you from getting even access to your stored up goods, or your bug out bag, or your homestead, or your off grid location. It's so easy for the Lord. He doesn't even need to think about it in terms of ways to prevent you from getting access to that. So it doesn't matter how well you pre-prepare now. If you're not in line with the will of the Lord, and he decides, no, you're not going to eat, or you're not going to be protected, or you're not going to have your family that you've prepared everything for in this time, then what? All that planning goes down the drain at that point, right? So the first and foremost thing, when you want to talk about planning, the first and foremost priority is Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, right? The Heavenly Father, in the name of his Son. Again, making sure that you're on the right type of time serving the Lord, because it is through the Lord's will and mercy, and power, that we will actually be able to make it through in these in these sorrowful and calamitous times. So with that, I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Racha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.